Welcome to the Fantasy Syndicate Podcast with your hosts, Joshua Poniatowski and Alex Taylor. Let's talk football.
Hello, and welcome to the Fantasy Syndicate Podcast. My name is Joshua Poniatowski. Hold on. My name is Alex Taylor. What's going on?
Is this some kind of, that's your Halloween bit? Yeah.
That's my Halloween bit.
Did you?
It's a
that
ball
actually
cap.
like a skull cap?
It's like an actual ball cap. I got it. For those of you that are listening on the podcast, I'm wearing a ball cap right now. I just took my hat off, so I'm Alex Taylor today for Halloween.
You look great.
Thanks. I don't know about all that, but
how does it feel like when you look at yourself in the mirror? Like, how did you get a boost of confidence, or
it reminds me of how tiny of a cranium I have, how tiny of a head. It just looks so small in proportion to my face. So I'm not digging it. I'm gonna have to keep hair for as long as I can.
Cheeks do seem like whiter than the top of your head.
For sure. I have to keep hair for as long as possible. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yes. I
like the Halloween spirit,
I just tried to, I had some different hats. I figured it'd be a cool episode to mix it up for. So this is how I'm rocking it. I'm sorry you gotta look at me this for the rest of the episode, but yes. Let's get started. Again, Alex Taylor with us. What's going on?
What up?
We are going to be talking about week 8 observations, waiver wires, buy low, sell high, trade targets, all the good stuff that we normally do. Jumping into week 8 observations, it is like everybody forgot how good the Rams were. Like, when their offensive playmakers are healthy, their O-line is starting to get healthier. Like last year, Puka, Kupp, Kyron, all of them were huge fantasy producers. And if the team can stay healthy, which we hope that they do, and Puka had 7 catches for 100 yards. The crazy thing about that stat this week was he was actually limited in snap count. So most people didn't start him because he was limited. He was only on the field 50% of routes, and he only saw 30% route run, which is crazy. So every play was literally designed for him. But do you think what we saw against the Vikings is what's going to continue for the Rams, and is Kupp off the trade block?
Oh, I think McVay already said, pretty much I think Kupp is definitely staying put. Puka limited in snaps, but apparently not limited in looks by Stafford, because Stafford was looking for him early and often and just slinging the ball to him. No, I'm very excited about that offense, and I was pretty heavily invested in it. I have all of those guys on various teams, so it was kind of like everyone who's been just waiting for them to come back finally got satisfaction. I was a little annoyed because I did keep Puka on my bench just because of that snap count concern.
Most people.
A little bit of a jabroni, but it was okay. I still might not get the win this week, but it happens.
Yeah.
But you gotta think about it. You gotta think about positive reinforcement. And that is what we did for the tight ends of the NFL league. We gave them, to hype them up, we gave them their own national holiday.
It entire day.
National Tight Ends Day. And they go out and, with that positive reinforcement in their back pocket, they just absolutely dominated the week in the fantasy production.
Crazy.
They set a record 177 catches by tight ends in a single day. Most that's ever happened. Everyone was popping off. Otten scored twice. So did Pitts. Kelsey got his first touchdown of the season. First touchdown in 13 games, too, dating back to last year. Kittle continues his absolute monster of a year. He's on.
Dominance.
Mark Andrews might be back, I guess. Everyone wrote him off, and I was got a touchdown in 3 straight. But Josh, with all these injuries and poor performances by the wide receivers, do you have any leagues where a second tight end maybe warrants a flex spot?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have guys like Trey McBride and Otten, let's say you picked up Otten off waivers, even though you didn't need a tight end, you could viably start 2 tight ends week to week. I think so. And talking about priority tight ends, Detroit Lions are so good at offense that they literally couldn't even make it to the fourth quarter. They put up 52 points against the Titans. in 3 quarters. And then they were like, you know what? I'm going to take a break. I'm taking the 4th quarter off. But this isn't about how good the Detroit Lions are. Like, we know how good the Lions are. This is about Sam Laporta and J-Mo. So J-Mo is out for at least one more game. He was suspended for 2 weeks due to some illegal policy thing that he did, which, it seems on par for him for the most part. But I honestly expect Laporta to have another huge day, because when J-Mo was out, he saw a 33% team target share, which early, like throughout the season earlier, we're talking like 6%, 8%, like non-existent when J-Mo is in as a wide receiver. Do you think Laporta is back, or just because J-Mo is out, that's why he's producing? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little jaded at him in this moment, so I'm still have a little bit of my guard up. I'm gonna have Kincaid on the one team I have with him. So at this point, Kincaid's staying in that spot. I'll think about him in my flex maybe, but it's also just a crazy game because they put up 52 points and Goff only had 85 yards passing.
It's insane. Yeah, they ran all over, and the kick returns were crazy. I think there was 3. There was a punt return, 2 kick returns that put them on like the 30, and I think they actually took one back, right, for a touchdown.
Yeah, and just some turnovers that they kept getting in their territory. So they didn't really have to do much to put up 52, which is pretty crazy to consider. Another quarterback who had not a lot of passing yards either was Caleb Williams. He did not really look that good this weekend against the Commanders, only completing 10 of 24 passing for 131, no touchdowns. Now, Commanders, I mean, they do have a decent defense, or fringe, like top 10 defense. But I mean, after this, it gets a little easier. They don't really have to face anybody too tough until the Niners in Week 14. So do you think Caleb Williams is the real deal, or is this more of like a sheep in wolf's clothing kind of situation?
I think Caleb is going to continue to do great against the matchups that he has, because they're so terrible from a passing side. But I don't think Caleb Williams is the real deal. I'm not sold on him. Even though the Bears are looking solid, they're looking good, they've been moving the ball, but like this game just kind of reassured me that, hey, when he faces tough defenses, he's going to first read targets. They're able to identify that. Not looking off receivers, not being able to move the ball, make decisions in time. So I'm not sold on Caleb. I know not everybody feels the same way, but I think he's going to be great for fantasy in the coming weeks. I just don't think from a quarterback perspective, he's the savior the Bears think.
What about more like long-term, like dynasty format? Like if they go out and get a little bit, beef up their O-line, draft one in the first round, maybe bring in another free agent, give them a little bit more protection. Do you like him in that regard? I mean, obviously, this year's more temperamental.
Yeah, I think this year, obviously Jaylen is the quarterback to own. Jaden Daniel, excuse me. Caleb, I think, is still number 2 at this point. Like, I wouldn't trade him for a Bo Nix or, Drake May or anything like that, even though Bo Nix has looked great. But yeah, I mean, in Dynasty, you got to hold him. I don't think you
more on that later.
He's like crazy high, on Caleb at that point. And keeping rolling with the QB train, we got kind of some breaking news. Anthony Richardson might not be starting at QB in Indianapolis this week. Head coach Shane Steichen, I believe you say your last name, told reporters, "We're evaluating everything," when asked who the starter was. Alex, did you see that play this week? And do you think that had any reason why AR is now not their starting quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, so the play in question of, him scrambling a couple plays and then asking to tag out, and Flacco popped in for just one play. I have ragged on Anthony Richardson a lot for a lot of reasons, and I hold up to that he is a terrible quarterback. I mean, he only went out and completed 10 of 32 passing. So I think he should be evaluated for that. The taking off the play, and maybe this is controversial because I feel like everyone's dragging on him for that right now, but it's like, I don't know. It's like a different standard because a receiver does like a long pass, they tag out immediately. A running back has a big bust out for a big run, they tag out immediately. So to me, I'm not gonna rag on him for that. I think it's like if he knows himself better than anyone else. I mean, maybe you can rag on him not being in a good enough shape, but it's like if he knows that he's not gonna be at his best, and everyone out there needs to be at their best, like if he's gonna be a detriment to the team, which he would anyways because he's a terrible passer. But I don't know. I didn't hate that he tagged out. I was like, I guess I thought it was kind of innovative if if you have a lot of like running quarterbacks or something like that, like keep fresh legs at the quarterback position. But I don't know.
My dude is 22 years old. He has been in the league for 2 years. It is third down. If Baker was like, I'm tapping out, like no chance Baker would tap out. Baker could be with a ventilation, like having ventilation on the field, holding it with him to throw a pass. So I think like you can't do that. Maybe he feels a little spoiled because he has Joe Flacco. That's such a good quarterback. But think about any other quarterback in the league on like 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 9 and being like, hey, I'm going to tap out, back up, come in. Like nobody else would be able to do that and get away with it. So I think the coaches maybe were looking for a reason, right? Like you said, his quarterback play has been terrible. But he invested, right? Like they invested a 1st-round pick in this man. They're going to give him an opportunity to play and start. He only got 4 games last year. We're only 8 games in this year, and he's only playing a handful of them. Like it's going to be too early for them to give up on their starting quarterback. But now he did something that everybody doesn't like. So it's kind of like an easy out if they decide to go that direction.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And obviously Josh Downs and Pittman stock goes way up at this point. So once
Flacco takes over,
if he takes over, and Flacco's only stash, he's not in our waiver wire report, but he's only available in 6% of leagues, and they're playing Minnesota this week. So who is 30 out of 32 against the pass, so if for some reason he can't go, that's a sneaky ad. But perfect. Moving into waiver wire picks, Alex, who you got?
Yeah, so the rookie in Buffalo, Keon Coleman, out of Florida State. He was kind of a hot sleeper pick in the draft, and then kind of hasn't really done too much. So his percentage has been kind of dropping. So he's only at 41% owned in Yahoo. So right under that half threshold we try to like. So he might be scooped up in your league, but the rookie really seems to be capitalizing off of the easier coverage that he's been getting across from Amari Cooper. There was concerns, Amari Cooper's coming in, like, Coleman's getting put on the back burner, but it seems like that might have like helped him. He's had 7 targets in back-to-back weeks. He's scored in double digits in 3 of the last 4 in all scoring settings. And we've seen, over time, we've seen Josh Allen support multiple receivers. I mean, Gabe Davis was relevant there with Stephon Diggs for a while. Annoyingly, inconsistent, but that's just his play style. But we've seen Josh Allen can support two receivers. So I mean, I like his chances to finish the year strong. Plus, rookie receivers tend to kind of take a little bit of time to kind of really get going. So, I mean, I think if he's available, you should give him an ad.
Yeah, and I mean the crazy thing about that game is Shakur had 9 catches for over 100 yards. Keon Coleman 5 catches, 70 yards. Amari Cooper was almost non-existent,
That's your boy,
game, which is scary. He is my boy. He was my sell high though after he got traded, so I just like to throw that out there.
All right.
But yeah, Keon is definitely he's moving up in stock as far as him not seeing cornerback 1 coverage. So I think from a waiver wire standpoint, immediate wide receiver, this could be a guy, especially in a Josh Allen run Bills offense. Next guy is the opposite of a Josh Allen Bills run offense. This is literally due to injury, but Parker Washington, he is 0% rostered in Sleeper. So he's probably available.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely everywhere. Christian Kirk, done for the season. Brian Thomas Jr., he might miss several weeks. They're saying the MRI was positive, so he maybe will only be out a couple weeks. But even then, it could be more. Gabe Davis is dealing with a hip injury. He honestly might not even return this week or really have a timetable. He's still questionable. So just out of pure necessity, Parker Washington is sitting out there. Washington plays predominantly out of the slot, and Christian Kirk, who plays that role, saw 20% target share. Jags are going to continue to play from behind. That's why we love Brian Thomas Jr. so much. At this point, I feel like he's an add. Let's see what happens type of play. But in deeper leagues, he's definitely a sneaky pickup that, you can roster in probably almost every league is available except for maybe some dynasty. But even then.
Man, T-Law was actually having like a decent game, relative. And then he has a crucial fumble in the fourth quarter, and like 5 yards away from their own end zone. God, they just can't get it together.
They can't figure it out.
Yeah. Another guy I like is Cedric Tillman. He's a little bit of talk of the town right now with his 2-touchdown game. So 19% owned. Most of that was probably just from last week when Jameis took over. But the second receiver was hungry, and Jameis came in and fed him a big fat W. The former Vol has been largely a non-factor his entire career, never cracking 55 yards, never scoring a touchdown. That all changed the moment Jameis took over the job and started slinging the rock as he does. Yeah. He's now finished as the fantasy scoring wide receiver 14 last week and wide receiver 3 this week. He just makes a dream flex play down the stretch. Just scoop him up wherever, throw him in your flex. Sure, it's Jameis. It's going to be a little bit of a wild card, but these are the fun wild cards that I think you need to look for and need to shoot for.
Yeah, Tillman slotted directly into that Amari Cooper role, immediately, and he's seeing the benefit of a good quarterback now because he was non-existent. I have him on my dynasty team. He was literally non-existent. I don't even think he was seeing little to none playing time. So Amari moving, Jameis stock is way up. Roster 19%. Got to go out and pick that man from a flex play perspective. Talking about the Doo-Doo Browns, Jameis Winston, 11% rostered. First start since 2022.
Josh, they're just the Dew Browns, remember?
They're just the Dew Browns. You're correct. We did upgrade them. And actually, it might just be the Browns. I mean, they literally, Jameis went out there and beat the Ravens, arguably the best team in the league.
Yep.
First start since 2022, put up over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had a 115 passer rating. What? So Jameis just doing Jameis things. What I will say is it might not be as rosy moving forward. The Ravens have a terrible secondary. They're facing the Chargers. I think they got Pittsburgh. They got a couple tough games outside the Saints in 2 weeks. So I would curb expectations. It's Jameis Winston. He's definitely going to sling it, but they still got some good defenses to face. So maybe a couple more interceptions, but he'll still bring the touchdowns, I'm sure.
Did you see his post-game interview when he goes, there's this white boy rapper I really like, and he just starts quoting Eminem?
I actually didn't see that. I saw the other one where he was like, I'm locked in. I'm determined. This is this weird.
Yeah, it was the other one. He goes, he started quoting, what was the 8 Mile one where it's like, one shot, one opportunity.
In the moment. Yeah. I gotcha.
But it's they refer to me as there's this white
random
rapper.
Random rapper that some of you maybe have heard. He's under the radar, but yeah.
Another QB I'm kind of eyeing is surprisingly Bo Nix. He's right now at 32% owned. Nothing like a game against the Panthers to have you looking like a stud. So a little bit, we'll see. And I've dragged Bo Nix a lot of this year. He hasn't really impressed me a bunch, but he's now finished as a fantasy top 10 QB in 3 of the last 4 weeks. And one sneaky aspect of his game is his running ability. Currently has the 4th most rushing yards as a QB. So, and he's got some juicy matchups down the stretch, kind of sprinkled in. He's one of those guys I'm not adding and just auto starting, but he's if you've got another kind of mid-level QB, you can kind of play the matchup game and kind of ping pong them down the stretch. So yeah, I think situationally I like Bo Nix.
Yeah, his rushing upside is undervalued for sure. And I didn't even realize he was top 4 on rushing QBs, which this rookie class, we knew that all of them can run. So I want to go back and look and see like how many of our rookie quarterbacks are top 10 or top 12 in rushing on the season? Because most of them are quasi quarterbacks. It'd be an
One
interesting
sec. I got you right now. Number
Yeah.
1, Lamar Jackson. Number 2, Jaden Daniels,
Okay,
424.
rookie.
Then Kyler, then Bo Nix, then Jalen Hurts, then Anthony Richardson, then Fields, Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams, and Josh Allen close out the top 10.
I got you. Okay, so 3 rookie
So,
quarterbacks, which is
yeah.
pretty good from a quasi rushing standpoint and first year in the season. So it makes sense. And rolling with the quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford. We talked about the Rams earlier. He's owned in 33% of leagues. The last 3 games. So this is the Rams are playing Seattle this week. The last 3 games, Seattle has given up an average of 250 yards through the air. The Rams just came off of a short week, so they had a Thursday night game. So they've had 9 days to prep for this Sunday game, which maybe doesn't seem like a big deal, extra couple days, but from a rest standpoint, from a game prep standpoint, from all those standpoints, additional 2 games is huge, especially for this injury-prone Rams team. Kupp, Kyler, and Puka, all healthy. Offensive line's getting healthier. I would say this game, we should see the best version of the Rams due to that long week. And I honestly, he could be a sneaky stream play if you need a quarterback this week, just because of the matchup and all of his players are healthy. So if you need him, go get him.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle just got absolutely gashed by Buffalo. So, but they're not looking too imposing on the defensive side of things.
Not at all. All right, we're going to move into trade targets. We're going to start off with the sell high section. Maybe these guys are popped off, or maybe their strength of schedule is tough moving forward. So who you got for us, Alex?
Yeah, keep it on the trend of National Tight End Day. I think it's time to move on from Kyle Pitts. He's a little bit of a, the 4th-year tight end is finally starting to live up to his potential. He's kind of exciting now. He's been playing really good, and it's like, where's this been? This is what everyone's been waiting on. There's so many truthers out there who've just been waiting on this. So I think that's like, take advantage of the hype and take advantage of people's obsession with him and try to capitalize. I mean, he finished this week as tight end 2, 23.1 and half PPR, 91 yards, 2 scores. But he did do it on only 5 targets. And one of his touchdowns, I thought was a fumble from Antonio Winfield, but who knows? I thought it shouldn't have happened, but it is what it is. Close call. But here's why you trade him off. Kirk Cousins is, for some reason, just the Bucs effer. He just can mess our stuff up. I don't know what we've done to the football gods to create such a monster, but in his 2 games against the Bucs, both in October, fun month, he had 8 touchdowns and 1 interception. In all the other games this year, he has 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So something about that matchup has just been exploding for this Falcons offense. So I think the whole Falcons offense is being overvalued. You could also make a case for trade. I thought about Kirk Cousins here in my sell high. I just think maybe tight end is a little bit easier to kind of work a trade magic. Tight ends, QBs are a little tricky to trade, I find, but so
they definitely are.
I think just strike while the iron's hot. I don't know I think he's riding the high of just beating the Bucs mercilessly, and they still got their bye. They still got some tough games coming up.
Yeah, I mean, my sentiments on Kyle Pitts. I don't like him. I don't think he's a good, player from what we've seen in the past. Not gonna lie though, I was watching the Bucs game, and maybe you're right. It's just Kirk Cousins slinging it against the Bucs. It was like 3 weeks ago, early October, and I saw him complete a bunch of passes to Kyle Pitts, and I was like, Kirk looks like he's figuring it out. Pitts starts to look good. I was like, what is happening to me right now? Why am I like this? So yes, I'm always for getting rid of Kyle Pitts. So trade that man. The sell high that I have, and some of you might not, like this simply because he just had a blow up game, but Calvin Ridley, the Titans are cooked, period. Like their entire team is cooked. They really don't have much to play for moving forward. He still has a terrible QB, regardless if it's Rudolph or Levis. And he's not going to have a team put up 52 points and score every 30 seconds of the game, right? Like, even though time of possession was in Titans' favor, it was predominantly the Lions' game because they scored so quickly. So I think maybe he'll have some other booming games throughout the season, but this is not a consistent thing. If you can go out and get somebody valuable, even from a flex play standpoint, like I'm trading Darnell Mooney for him. I think even though wide receiver 2 on the Falcons, strength schedule, that kind of stuff, I think could be, from a PPR standpoint, could be good. And the Titans are just going to play ugly football. They have one of the top defenses. Obviously, Detroit has the top offense, but they have one of the best defenses. So they're going to continue to play ugly football.
Yeah, I mean, Ridley was almost droppable basically before this game. You know, depending on your situation, what you need on your bench. I mean, they got rid of D-Hop, so I'm obviously going to be a little bit more targets-ish going his way. And they did pay him a decent contract in the offseason. So
huge money.
Got, he's got a little bit. It's like, well, you might as well throw to the guy. So, I mean, I agree he might have a couple good games, but it's just a bad offense, and he's not worth that much money anyways. So, if you can get anything relevant, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. All right, next we're moving into the buy now section. Either we think these guys are good moving forward, they may be underperformed, or there's some sneaky rumors floating out there on why we should pick them up. So who you got, Alex?
Ooh, sneaky. My guy's not very sneaky. This might sound crazy to consider the RB2 on the season as a buy low candidate, but I think you should try to make a move for Alvin Kamara. Fantasy can be fickle. It can change on a whim. So is he technically RB2 on the season? Yes, but it's all about what he's done for me lately. 43% of his fantasy production came in the first 2 games of the season, and then the rest over the last 6. He started 5 touchdowns in those first 2 games. He now since then, he only has 2 touchdowns over the last 6 games. This whole Saints offense has just been completely derailed due to various injuries, Olave, Rashid, Carr, so they've also had a just brutal stretch on their strength of schedule. In the last 4 games, they had to play against 3 teams that are in the top 5 for the NFL for lead for points against defensively. So Kansas City, Denver, and LA Chargers, 3 top 5 defenses that he's had to go up against. Carr is hopefully coming back this week, and they do also have a really juicy matchup against the Panthers. So I think he gets back on track. I get it. He's a big name. It might take a lot to get him, but like I said, he's been probably the lowest value he's going to be at this season, I think. So.
Yeah, everything you just said. The only team that they didn't play with a good defense is the Bucs defense. But what you going to do? Right? Bucs got bad defense. But yeah, they got the Panthers.
Did you look that up? I did purposely left that part
I did. I looked it up. You said 3 out of 4. I was like, who is that 4 team? Oh, it's the Bucs. So I had to make sure. I
wasn't going there.
But yeah, I mean, they play the Panthers this week. Like, with Carr coming back, his stock is obviously significantly better. Spencer Rattler, even though they switched quarterbacks, if that experiment continues, he dumped off to him a lot. So, opportunities from a catching standpoint also are there, even if something happens with Carr. The only thing I don't like is the Saints are 2-6, 2-6, right? 2-6.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Assuming
they get the free win against the Panthers, maybe that gets them a
little bit
of a push. But yeah, there's a chance they're just completely out of it and don't utilize him.
Yeah, and he has a broken hand, what else was broken?
Yeah, Kamara deals with all that stuff every year.
It's insane. Yeah, he's injured a lot, but they're 2-6, so that's the only thing I'm worried about. Obviously, everybody wants Kamara on their team though.
He's just gonna put those tape things all over his arms, and those have like a magical device.
He'll be walking out in casts. Yeah, just walking out.
Who you got?
We're gonna play him. We just paid him and extended him his money. We're playing him. All right, guy I got is somebody that nobody wants to hear. Okay, so Diontae Johnson is who you should buy. This probably sounds crazy. This guy has said he's hurt. He is not hurt. I do not believe it. I
Wow.
texted him earlier. I said, "You hurt?"
That's
he said,
a claim.
"No, I'm good, bro." I said, "All right, good deal." But we saw the same thing with Davante Adams. Davante Adams was injured. He had a hammy problem. And then when he got traded, it was like magic. He started walking straight. It was a miracle. Best, wide receiver one. He was healthy. So I think that's what's happening right now. There are teams who need stud wide receivers that are trying to make a run. Niners come to mind. Your Bucks come to mind. The Commanders could use another wide receiver too. Noah Brown has, they've been trying to work with him. Steelers potentially, right? They're making a run and they got Russ. They're feeling good. That would obviously not be great, and also potentially the Chargers. Obviously, the hope is if he gets traded, he goes to the Bucks. Next, I would say would be Niners, then Commanders, then Steelers and Chargers in that order. Any way you see it, though, if this man gets traded, his stock goes from practically zero to now you have a candidate that you can either sell if you want to a team or potentially a starting player a week after that trade. And the trade deadline's coming up on November 5th. So it's this week. You got to make a move. Your window's closing. I think it's a high risk, but I for sure think it's a high reward as well.
I just like how, you compared him to Davante Adams in certain regard, and then Davante Adams has been pretty bad with the Jets. I mean, that whole offense just can't get it together. They just lost to the Patriots. Like, what is happening?
The Jets have just going on the Jets, though. So
Rodgers he's in the darkness. He's got to get out of it. He's got to adapt to the darkness, he says.
I don't know how he's going to do that, but yeah. So Diontae Johnson, buy him for cheap. Obviously, don't give much up for him, and then hold for a week. And if he doesn't get picked up, drop that man. All right.
Well, speaking of start of the week, Diontae Johnson's my only miss all year. By the way, just made me think about that.
He did get injured though, so
Yeah, I know. I know.
That's a buy. That's a buy there for sure. I also never miss. Since we're leading into the start of the week, Sean Payton said, "F your prediction." He said, "We're going to throw the ball almost 40 times a game, even though we're up 28-7 against a terrible Panthers team with Bryce Young in the third quarter." I don't give a crap. I'm not running the ball. I'm not running the clock out. I'm not running against the worst run defense in the league. I'm going to pass the ball. The game was kind of an interesting, infuriating game to watch because the Broncos were up. I knew that was going to happen. But what I didn't see coming was Javonte losing carries to Jaylen, them throwing the ball so much. So I missed my prediction by about 55 yards and a touchdown. It's rough for sure. Not good. I would like to say I put some money on Javonte as well. Usually when I make these predictions, I throw a couple bucks on it as well. So I put my money where my mouth is most of these weeks. So that's also a hard one.
Not eating good this week then.
No, not great. But this week I'm not going to miss. Okay, I am going Miami versus Bills. McDaniels looked right back at home. Tua was back under center. While the Bills have a somewhat solid pass defense, it's the Dolphins, right? Most of the time, not many teams can stop the Dolphins. The over for this game is 49.5, which I think is the second highest on the week. I'm going to take this. This is a risky one as well. I could easily go Tyreek, but I'm going to go Jaylen Waddle in this matchup. He has been quiet up until this point. A breakout game is imminent. We got to see something from this man. So I'm not going crazy. So I'm going to go 7 catches, 85 yards, 1 touchdown is my prediction.
I mean, if you're a Waddle owner, that is a smash. I mean, that's monstrous considering what he's been doing all year. I mean, I will say, you're defending Javonte. He did have 22 opportunities. So yeah, that's not
22. No.
Yeah,
no, he didn't.
Yeah, he had 17 carries and 5 targets.
Okay, targets. Gotcha. I think I said he'd have 100 rushing yards though. What was his all-purpose? Yeah. What were his all-purpose? He had 22
opportunities. Moving on to mine. My call last week was pretty dang good. I said Mixon would finish with 160 all-purpose, 4 catches and a score. He went out and got 134, 6 catches and a score. So pretty close if you got any full PPR or half PPR on a catch per yard basis. This week, I think Dak finally stops sucking. Going up against Atlanta in the game that Vegas is giving the highest over/under. His chemistry with CD seems to be clicking. 2 touchdowns. Most of it in relatively garbage time last week. But they got. They have 0 run game. Dallas is desperate for a win. They got to do something to get their season on track. I think Dak just goes out slinging it for 325 and 4 touchdowns, 2 of which will go to CD.
4 touchdowns, back-to-back 2 touchdown games for CD. That is a monster game. Yeah, I was lucky enough to be beating somebody, but I think it was like 39 points this week. They had CeeDee Lamb, hasn't broken more than 100 yards, maybe a touchdown here and there. And they put up 39.8, and I lost. Got to love it. I also had Jordan Mason, who they pulled after the...
Yeah.
But I agree with you that I think Dak's going to have a better game. That is very optimistic. You haven't missed yet. You just need to keep throwing higher and higher numbers until it finally happens.
I had the one miss. I already went over it.
Yeah, so start picking some of my players. That'd be great.
Okay.
But yeah, Dak for sure. I think it'll be a better game. Atlanta's pass defense isn't great. They're going to have to keep up. CD and him definitely were clicking in the second half of that Niners game. So we saw the connection. We saw some life out of their offense moving into that second half, which you like to see. All right, well, that's all we got for y'all today. A little bit shorter episode. But if you like what you heard, go ahead and give us a like and subscribe. If not, that's cool too. Thanks for hanging out. And go steal a championship. Peace.
Peace.